I'd first of all like to thank everyone for coming along and just introduce myself. I'm Richard Willis, the Pathway Manager for Hockey New South Wales. And as you're all aware, it's Education Week for Hockey New South Wales. And tonight we're talking about coaching pathway. And it's something exciting for us to be able to have as many people in the rooms for a variety of sessions. So thank you for all taking the time to come in tonight. Also, one of the themes for our Education Week is supporting our volunteers. And I see so many wonderful volunteer coaches on the Zoom meeting tonight. And we're very appreciative of what you do. And so we want to be able to provide as much support to our volunteers as we can. And part of Education Week is doing that if we can. Tonight's workshop, I've sort of titled it, it's a live lived experience. And hence, we really wanted to make it a conversation where we talk to each other and have a little bit of dialogue. Just be aware that tonight's session's being recorded. So if you don't want to have your face on the screen, please just turn off your video. It'd be great if you could mute yourself as well, and allow for the recording to happen. The recordings will be available for the general public after Education Week has finished. So with that, I'd just like to introduce my two guest panelists tonight. First of all, I'd like to introduce Helen Willis, who hails from Tamworth. And I will clarify from the start before Helen does that Helen is not my wife, but has a similar surname to myself. So welcome, Helen. We'll learn a little bit about Helen further down the track, but she's the current New South Wales Under-15 Blues assistant. I'd also like to introduce Ben Brown, who has been on his hockey journey for quite a while, and he's the current Hunter Academy of Sport coach, but also the New South Wales Under-18 State men's coach. So I'd like to welcome and thank Ben and Helen for coming along tonight. Also in the room tonight is an RPC in the name of Greg Doolan, who's from the Northern Inland region, and Greg will be servicing the chat function. If anyone has any issues or any comments, put them up on chat and Greg will be able to bring them to us, but we will have an opportunity further along where you can ask questions verbally as we go along. So that's about it from an introduction, and we'll probably get into the presentation. I'm hoping everyone can see the PowerPoint that I'm sharing, and we'll work through as it shows there. We're going to have, we've had an introduction of Ben and Helen and Greg. I'm going to talk a bit about the Hockey New South Wales pathway. I'm going to highlight an experience that I've had along my coaching journey. I'm going to do a Q&A with Ben and Helen around their coaching journeys, and then there'll be an opportunity for you guys to ask questions of both Helen, Ben, and myself. We'll talk a bit about coaching culture to finish up, and then finally any more question and answers. So with that, we'll move on. I hope I can move on. So this document that's in front of you now can be found on the Hockey New South Wales website. I will show you where to find that later. But what it's outlining is something that's just newly been released to the hockey community, which is, if I highlight to start with the, sorry, just bear with me, I'll admit a couple more people. It highlights the Hockey Ed community course criteria here, the Hockey Ed Level 1, Hockey Ed Level 2, and the Advanced Hockey Coaching courses. If you actually click on the online Hockey Ed link there, it will take you to the principles that, or the competency checklist that you're meant to be able to do for the Hockey Ed community. And then also underneath it, it gives you an outline of maybe the programs or the matches or the competitions that you should be looking to be involved in. So if we went to Hockey Ed Level 1, we would expect all our New South Wales assistant coaches would at least have Level 1, and maybe even at a regional academy, that's the level we're looking for. At Hockey New South Wales recently, we've also introduced our state bronze, our state silver, and our state gold. The reason we've introduced those courses is that we wanted them to be mainly hockey content for people that may not be ready to go from community to level 1, or feel like they just want a little bit more additional hockey knowledge. And we've piloted the bronze program in the New England COD area, just so it's in preparation to be rolled out to the community. So watch this space as we continue to grow the state bronze and state silver. There is also a little bit of a revamp of the Hockey Ed levels through Hockey Australia, and we're very lucky to have Blair Chalmers on the call tonight as well, as he's leading the changes in the Hockey Ed, but we won't go into that until it's fully released from Hockey Australia. Move on to the next slide. I just wanted to give everyone a snapshot of possibly programs and the trajectory from a coaching point of view. And as a lot of the people in the call tonight, they would have attended the regional challenge this weekend. So to get started in coaching, our COD program is the perfect vehicle for people to be able to learn more about their coaching, have a mentor in their RPC, but also coach in an environment that is non-competitive where they can just learn their skills. So the COD program tied into regional challenge with 11 regions all over New South Wales. I would encourage anyone that's wanting to start on their hockey journey to get involved in that program. We then move on, possibly once you've been through a COD program or regional challenge, there's a variety of academy programs that sit above COD and below AAP on our pathway. And so again, there's opportunity for coach development and coach opportunity in those programs. And then let's go to the next level on our pathway, and we look at our AAP program, which is our elite program for our best under 18 athletes. We look at our Hockey New South Wales state teams, whether it's New South Wales 15s, 18s, 21s, both in field and indoor. We look at the NSPIS program, which has an opportunity for coaches to be involved in or just go along and support the training environment and learn from themselves. And then a highlight for a coach should be the ability to coach at Pride or be engaged around a Pride team, which is the elite Hockey New South Wales teams. So I've shown you those slides to give you an idea of what opportunities there are for a coach, not just in clubland, but in an area where they can extend themselves at Hockey New South Wales. Just wanted to give you a little bit of a story about myself before we move into Helen and Ben. I've been involved in hockey since my neighbour gave me a hockey stick when I was 7 years old. And once I finished playing, I decided coaching was a way for me. I've been a proud member of the Tudor West Hockey Club all my life. And it's a very good club. Like most of the people in this room are tied to a club. Tudor West have men and women, juniors from 4 through to masters playing hockey still where they're 74. But the story I want to talk to you about is this piece of paper that I found the other day. This is a handwritten note from the coach of the 1983 Tudor West first grade team. When I found this note, I thought, well, that's probably not going to be worth very much. But then when you actually read the content that's in that note, it's quite useful even to this date. Barry Pritchard has been my mentor as I've grown up as a coach to where I am today. And Barry actually still coaches in the local Tamworth competition. So to see that coaching hasn't changed, but also to see the importance of what a mentor is to you as a coach, I felt that picture may have been able to help you. It talks a bit about our opposition. And then the second A4 page with lovely handwriting I found was Barry telling me as a player some of the things that I should be focusing on during the match, and nothing different to the day how we operate today, but just in a little bit different form. As you can see by the PowerPoint, I was only 19 years of age. I wish I could go back to that age, but yeah, just something for people to take on board. With that, we'll move on to Ben and Helen's stories. And just to give you a little bit of a look at Ben Brown to start with, and I'll ask Ben to maybe talk to some of these photos as we go along, but Ben's been involved in our New South Wales program, and I think that's a New South Wales under 13 team, where he's in action there with Coach Sally Smith. And also, as coaching's also not always about seriousness, we'll get down there, and I think that's again with an under 13 boys team down at Hobart. So a great, exciting couple of great pictures to tell a story about Ben. And not for Ben to be undone, we better show Helen and a couple of pictures of Helen. Helen coaching the gold medal winning team at under 13 girls, I believe, Helen, in one of her first roles as a coach for New South Wales. And I'm sure this picture may come up. Small Shield, for those people that don't know, that's an under 11 competition in Tamworth where Helen started her coaching. So lots of difference in their journeys there. As I said, tonight's about live experiences or lived experiences, and we're going to find out a little bit about Helen and Ben's journeys as we go along. So we'll get into it. We've got a couple of questions there that might also prompt people in the audience to ask something further, but I might throw to you first, Helen, and say, how did you first start in your coaching journey?
We were looking for club coaches basically, and my kids were playing, so I started coaching on the grass, and eventually tried to do under 11s, which is one of the photos. So I did that for a couple of years. I enjoyed that, and then I moved into Tamworth rep teams, and from there into the academy, so NIAS Academy. So I've been there for the last 6 years. Somebody said to me, "Oh, your name was mentioned for that role," and I went, "Really?" So I went, "Okay, all right, I'll throw my hat in and see what happens," and happened to get that job, and I was a bit like, "Oh my goodness, better start getting myself organised." And then from there, I thought, well, I might as well have a go at trying an assistant role with the state under 13s team I applied for, and I happened to snag that. I'm not really sure how, but I did. And I went away with James Birkfield for the first 2 years as his assistant coach. And then the third year was the year I had head coach role, and we won the gold medal in Hobart. So that was a pretty big year for me. And this year, last year, obviously COVID interrupted, but this year under 15s Blues. So it's been quite a journey. There's been lots of things that have happened along the way that I've had lots of good memories, and yeah, it's good to see some of the kids that I started coaching under 11s are all playing women's these days, so it makes me feel pretty old. But anyway, but a funny story, when Richard asked me about doing this, I went back and was looking through some of my bits and pieces, and Dullo, you'll appreciate this. Dullo is actually head coach the first year I was in under 11s coaching, and I had to do a training plan and show Dullo before I could set up my training. So that's where I started, and I'm still on the hockey pitch with Dullo today. So he's been a mentor all the way along. So I've got to say thanks to Dullo as well.
So Helen, if we could just put one thing, how did you start? So you're saying that they needed coaches.
Needed club coaches, pretty much, yeah. I think you probably roped me into it, Richard. You were probably around in those days still too. So yeah, just club coaches. And I felt like all the other clubs that were doing well had really well educated coaches. So once I started doing it, I felt like I really needed to start educating myself. So I went looking for lots of information, trying to find bits and pieces everywhere. So I actually, I think I said to you the other day, I found, which I don't know if they'll show up, the old people might enjoy these. I found these. It's probably not going to show up. Yeah, they're anyway, they're old scoring more goals for intermediate and advanced editions from Dennis Glencross years ago. So I can't remember where I found them, but I did look far and wide for all sorts of bits and pieces to help educate myself back in the day. So it's much easier these days with Google, because I've been coaching 15 years, I think, maybe.
And Hockey New South Wales putting on workshop. So,
yeah, exactly.
So Ben, where did you start your coaching journey? Is it in Taree, and how did you get involved?
So I guess probably way back, as probably a 14 or 15-year-old, I coached an under-10s team for my club locally in Taree. Then moved away to uni, didn't really do a lot, just played in Newcastle, and came across a guy called Nate Butterfield, who at that point was the head coach of Hunter Academy. So my pathway is probably a little bit different to Helen's, I pretty much came in as an assistant academy coach. And that's basically what started me back in as a coach. And that was in 2015. From there, I basically was recommended by Nate. There was an under 13s New South Wales gig that had been advertised. I applied for that, got knocked back, got a little bit dirty at that because I got knocked back because I don't like being told no. So I then just decided, all right, well, I'm going to push this and see how far I could go. From there, I was appointed head coach of Hunter Academy when Nate left, and I've pretty much just been in the way since then. So put myself around every training session, every room, every program that I could. I worked a lot with Dulo, so there's a little common link for us, Helen. In Newcastle, when Dulo was the RCC down here, I worked a lot with him in COD and those kind of programs while working with Academy. And then a 18s assistant role for New South Wales popped up with the Blues girls. Was probably in the right place at the right time, got that one. And yeah, from there, it's just been a roller coaster. You know, been through the whole gamut since then. I've coached under 13s girls, under 13s boys, and of course under 18s boys and girls. So yeah, a little bit different to Helen, probably not the most organic I guess growth as a coach. I've kind of been thrown in the deep end and just taken it with both hands, and hopefully I've swum. But yeah, that's probably an interesting background.
I might roll you both back just for a minute, just so that we can get a feel for your hockey background. Could you probably both give us a snapshot of your playing days or your hockey playing days, and then the transition to coaching, if that's possible? I'll go to you first, Ben.
Yeah, so I played Premier League in Newcastle. As a junior, I was sort of in and around New South Wales squads and programs, but never really good enough to crack them. Certainly didn't put in the work to crack them either, which is probably a telling thing as a sort of 15, 16-year-old kid. But yeah, so sort of top level club stuff locally, played junior rep all the way through, those kind of things, and then transitioned into coaching when I stopped playing. But
Helen?
So like I said before, I originally started my hockey career with Wenty Hockey Club when I was about 15. So a girlfriend from high school dragged me along to play hockey. I had cousins who were very good hockey players who had all been in state and national development kind of roles. One took a trip to New Zealand with one of their junior 21 Australian teams. So had lots of hockey players around me and in my family, but I was never one of those super talented players. I played first grade with Parramatta Women's, and then eventually moved down and played with a club called Esquires, which I don't even know if they're still around. But I was lucky enough to have players like Beth Shea, Alison Annan, Loretta Dorman, Lisa Norton. So training sessions were always pretty good, and I learnt so much stuff from those guys back in the day. They're always pretty happy to share their knowledge. So that was always really good. And then I fell pregnant and we moved and left Sydney. And 21 years ago, moved to Tamworth, got involved with hockey up here. The kids came through, ended up involved with Tudor West Hockey Club. So that's why everyone thinks that Richard and I are married, because we're at the same hockey club. And played first grade, didn't play for a while. And yeah, got into coaching from there. So it's been quite an interesting journey. It's been a fun one too.
Excellent. So we might move more into the coaching specifics, and if you could just outline how you've actually progressed your coaching and your development from the coaching. Was it through hockey ed courses? Was it through your own research? Was it just by trial and error? Maybe just a snapshot of what you would suggest people to do. Ben? You're on mute, Benny.
Oops. Sorry, guys. As part of the academy, I sat down with Nate and did my level 1 through hockey ed. From there, I just decided that I wanted to progress as far as I could. So pretty much straight away, as soon as I became the head coach for academy, I decided that I probably needed to be a level 2. So I enrolled in hockey ed level 2 and worked through that program with Dulo. And then again, pretty much as soon as I became a New South Wales coach, there was a level 3 course, applied for that, and did that through Hockeyed as well, through John Mowat. I don't know if anyone knows John. And that was probably a 12-month process, but was actually, you know, it was really, really good to push myself and challenge myself, because I probably wasn't ready to do it at the time. From there, in terms of formal education, I've also done the FIH level 3 course, when they hosted that in Rockhampton at the Oceania Cup last year. Sorry, year before, 2019. In terms of informal education, and I guess my recommendation for anyone who wants to be involved is I just kept on putting my hand up to go to stuff. So any opportunity I could get to be on a pitch around better coaches, I took the advantage. So anytime Dulo needed a coach in Newcastle, I put my hand up. Anytime there was an AAP camp or a COD camp or a local rep job or anything like that, I just put my hand up and did as much as I could, I guess to build my experience, but also get a bit of exposure to high level coaches, and, you know, and take what I could from them.
Sound advice, Ben, and that sounds like you've seeked out the information from a variety of different coaches. Would you have a coach that you would have learned something specific of during that time?
I mean, I think it's not so much a specific thing off any one coach. I think you just pick up little bits and pieces off everyone that you work with. You know, obviously, very early days, I modeled a lot of what I did off Dulo. He was a very, very big influence on the way that I coached at the start. But I also took lots of stuff off Nate. He was probably, you know, he was an abrasive person, but in terms of his actual, I guess the way that he coached and the approach that he took to coaching was actually really good. So I took a lot out of that. You know, I've taken a lot of things off yourself at camps, off Blair, off guys like Jimmy Berkefeld, who I was lucky enough to work alongside with. You know, New South Wales coaches, I've been really lucky. I've worked with Al Charlton, Kate Jenner, Adrian McGrath. You know, I've had some really, really good guys to, I guess, just sit around and sponge up information off, which has been really, really good. So it's probably not one specific thing off anyone, but there's lots of little bits and pieces off everyone, if that makes sense.
Helen, I'd like to make a comment on how you've developed your coach there.
Probably similar to Ben, actually. I suppose I did my level 1 in 2015 or something like that, and level 2 not long after that, and I attended the course that Rick Charlesworth came over and presented with Hockey New South Wales, and I can't remember whether that was the level 3, but I can remember John Mowat doing one as well. So unlike Ben, I wasn't very diligent and follow up all the video bits and pieces at the end. I was a little bit daunted by that, so I chickened out, but that's probably not very good. You should go for it, people. So I've had lots of people that I've done exactly the same thing, sponged information off as much as I can. So, for example, the other weekend it was Casey Easton. It's always Dulo. Dulo's always got me hanging around like a bad smell, and he probably wishes I'd go away. I nagged Richard one time and got to go and stand on a pitch with Trini Powell, which was fantastic, and she was very open and answered a few questions that I had that I was game enough to ask her. KJ's always around, so it's been really good. And then through NIAS, I nagged the NIAS guys. Like, we always educate our athletes, but I said, how are you educating us coaches within the academy program? So they started doing some education and getting some coaches in that had coached with high level different sports around the place. So I go and listen to anyone or talk to anyone, whether it's about hockey, whether it's about swimming, whether it's about something else. You can always find something that will help your coach development. And it doesn't necessarily have to be technical about hockey. It's just about how you can handle players, how you can set yourself up in a better way, all those sorts of things that you can just gain little bits and pieces of, I think, from anybody that you're prepared to listen to. So I did hang around Blair for a long time when Blair was our RCC. So yeah, lots of different people.
And I'll probably just throw one more name in there that you both didn't mention, but we're now very lucky to have Larry McIntosh on our coaching panel at Hockey New South Wales. And I know Larry's been very influential lately with both of you, but we better move on
Yeah.
because I don't want to be here all night. I appreciate people taking their time, but just a simple question: why do you coach? Ben, would you like to answer that one?
I think it just comes back to at some point when I was a junior, somebody gave up their time to coach me. So I figured I should probably do the same thing. It's probably always been the motivation is just to give back. You know, and I think that's probably why most of us do what we do. You know, it's not like you're making a lot of money out of it, so you've got to have some other reason to be doing it.
We saw the picture or the selfie with the under 13 boys. Can you give me one moment that you really enjoyed on your coaching journey?
Yeah, that team was a lot of fun. So there was that probably sums up that entire trip, and that's probably you know, one of the really good moments. It was probably a big growth moment for me to be a head coach. At that time for me, it was probably a really big step and a big push outside my comfort zone and the way that we approached that championship. So I mean that was just became a really fun trip. I think probably the other one that, you know, I didn't throw the photos in, but the 18 state team we took away in 2018 when Adrian was head coach, I was the assistant, and just the overall camaraderie of that team, the way that we approached everything we did was actually really nice. It was really good memories of that one. So.
I'll ask you the question. You can think about it, team culture and how you develop that from a coaching point of view. Can you think about that one while Helen answers?
Yep.
Helen, why do you coach?
I love coaching kids pretty much. I enjoy all levels because I coach from under 11s all the way through to first grade ladies here at home, as well as the state stuff. But I really enjoy coaching the kids. I enjoy seeing the development and the fun they get out of it, and when they can achieve something. I think that's just the icing on the cake kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's the kids.
So was that team performance or just that individual growth? Do you get just as much?
Both. Yeah, both. So I've brought a team of kids through from under 11s all the way through to under 15s at the moment, and just the way they're not all fantastically gifted players, but they play together really well as a team. And I think the one thing I try and make sure that the kids understand is that I'm trying to be the fairest I possibly can. So everybody gets game time, doesn't matter whether they're the strongest link or one of the weaker links. They all have game time. They all have ways that they can achieve their goals, so that they feel empowered and that they're part of the family, I suppose. So I think that's the key. That's the key for me anyway. That's what I take away from it. So even with the state team with the 13 girls, it was exactly the same when we went away. It was just like Ben said, it was like being a big family while we were away, and the support staff that I had were fantastic. Because I have to say, I was absolutely terrified the first time I was the head coach. And I can remember Richard looking, I went so prepared. I had a book all prepared for the girls. I had a training plans prepared because I couldn't think of any other way if I got stuck on the spot. I needed to be organised. So that's how I sort of approach it. And that's what I get out of it because I can see the growth.
Excellent. I like the word family. I think when we think about sport 4 to 74 and male and female, I really appreciate that word and in the team environment. Ben, culture and combining your team together, any tips for people in the room or something that you enjoy doing?
Mate, I think the biggest thing with culture is that it needs to be athlete driven. You know, it's all well and good as a coach to go, this is what I want to have in my culture. You know, and you can obviously lead the conversation to where you want it to end up. But I think, you know, in the long run, you really, to see results, you need to have that to be athlete driven, and they need to define in their own terms. And then you as the coach hold them accountable to that. Yeah, that's probably been the biggest thing for me is, you know, letting them set their own boundaries and hold them accountable to those boundaries.
Culture in your teams that you've had, anything that you'd like to add around developing your team culture?
I agree with Ben. Like, I think the athletes do need to lead it, but you also kind of need to be the example and the shining light and hold them accountable, like you said. I think the one thing that I really, really enjoyed with the 13 girls when we went away was that we sung the team song after every game, and the girls got really involved and banging on boxes and whatever, and made heaps of noise so that they had that team culture kind of thing happening as well while we were away. So it was something that we did, and it was the same thing all the time that we did. So they got used to being able to do that, and that kind of became their thing. And I know we got told a couple of times that we had to be a little bit quieter when we were singing it, so it was good.
So Ben or Helen, while anyone has a question, they might unmute themselves, so I know that we're ready to start. If you have a question, but Ben, if anyone in the room was inspiring to get involved in coaching, what would be your key thing you'd say to them?
I think just, get yourself into any situation you can where you're uncomfortable. Don't sit in your comfort zone. Make sure you push yourself, because that's the only way that you grow.
Excellent. Helen?
Yeah, don't be scared to have a go. If you're looking like you want to have a go and you are a little bit tentative, find your RCC or find any of the coaches that we've talked about tonight. Like, I'm more than happy for anyone to come up and start a conversation with me about coaching at any time. I'll talk to anyone about hockey. So I think, yeah, just have a chat with someone. There's always ways that you can get involved. I know I've involved Carissa from here at my local club. She was keen and interested and was coaching under 11s, and now she's involved in Hockey New South Wales program as a developing coach. So there's always ways to get involved. Dula and I have had her involved with Nias for the last couple of years as well, just as an assistant, and she comes along just to listen. She doesn't even have to run sessions, so it's just get on the pitch and listen to what's going on. So and Dula has really pushed her out of her comfort zone this year, and she had to coach the COD team. So there's ways to get involved, and there's lots of people here to help you.
Do I have any questions from the room that they'd like to ask either myself, Ben, or Helen? There was nothing in the chat, Dula, I don't think, was there?
No, Richard, I had the easiest job. I don't think I had one question to answer.
Surely you've got a question of Helen and Ben then.
Probably not, to be honest. They've pretty well said everything. I've spoke as they both said. I've worked with both of them quite a lot.
All good.
So,
Nice things, Dula. Nice things.
Some
Yeah.
would hold you responsible, Dula.
Richard,
I'm happy.
I'll ask a
quite.
question.
So Blair's got a question for us. Blair, as the Hockey Australia representative, we're quite happy to
Thanks.
take your
I'm just a
question.
coach listening in tonight. So, I was just going to ask Ben and Helen, you've been exposed to a lot of really good coaches, mentors, etc. Have you started to develop your own style? I know we're never really complete, but are you really comfortable with the way that you're coaching currently? And do you have a favoured part of coaching, be it striking, defending? What parts of coaching do you enjoy? So do you have a flavour, your own style, and what part do you enjoy the most?
Do you want to go first, Helsie? Do you want me to go? I mean, I think overall, I think I've developed a coaching style that is probably more my own over the last couple of years than I did previously. But I don't think, as you said, I don't think you're ever really finished. I think you end up. Sorry, mate. I've got kids in the window here pulling faces. I don't think I said you ever really finish. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's just a developing thing the entire time. Sorry, mate. What was the other part of the question? I've lost my train of thought there because I said I had kids walking past.
No, the other part is that working with an assistant coach. I know I found it useful where I might like to take the back two lines and Liam or someone takes the front two lines. So have you got a preference across where you enjoy your coaching the most around tactical during tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall I really like trying to outthink the other coach. I like to really delve into the tactics and try and figure out what's going on and how I can beat that. In saying that, though, I also really like to work with athletes one-on-one while we're away and sort of figure out what makes them tick and what they're trying to achieve, and trying to work that within what we're trying to do as well.
Can I answer that as well? I'm a dead set goal scorer and I work with the strikers any day. Helen?
So coaching style has definitely evolved, and Hockey New South Wales has probably had a lot to do with that for me. When Buster was here, Larry and anyone else that I have spoken to or been around, so yourself and Greg, and I suppose tactics, structure is kind of a big thing for me, and that will change depending on the age group that you're kind of looking at and working at. So even when I was coaching under 11s, I was still trying to get them to transfer the ball around the back if I could, or anything like that. I like the strikers, but I'm a defender at heart, so I probably really like working with the defence.
Thanks, Helen and Blair. Great question. I really like that. Has anybody else got another question they'd like to ask Ben or Helen, or we can move on?
Richard, just got a question.
Yes, Dule.
For both of them, I just had a question put up directly to me, and it says, to both of you, do you feel that you need a different coaching style for boys and girls? And also, do you prefer one of the genders? You can go first, Helen.
I have to say I've really only ever coached girls. I've never really had the opportunity to coach boys. I wouldn't mind having a go at coaching boys. I don't know how they'd take to me, but anyway, we'd have to play that one by ear. So I've only ever coached girls, like even right through from the juniors all the way through to the seniors. So, and again, it all just depends on the age group as to how you coach them and how you treat them, and whether they're old players or not. It's a bit hard to get older players to understand new position names, so they'll go, "What? Tell me, I'm an inner, aren't I? Not an AM. What's an AM?
Ben, could you
Striker.
answer
What's
that?
a striker?"
Ben, would you like to answer Dule's question as well?
Yeah, mate. I mean, I think overall the content that you're coaching is the same. I've probably found that your delivery changes between boys and girls, and I think it also depends on the age group too. Like I think younger age groups, it's all pretty similar. You want to be pretty gentle with how you approach trying to make changes and feedback and those kind of things. I've probably found with 18s boys in particular to be a little bit more direct, probably, and that's probably more a relatability thing for me. But yeah, I think overall, I think your content and what you're trying to achieve doesn't change, but your delivery probably does slightly. Yeah.
Now, Roz, you've got your hand up, Roz. I'm presuming that's a question, is it?
Yeah, I have, Richard. I was just wondering, a few years ago, I talked to Helen quite a bit when Dula had me coaching COD down at Moorebank, and she had quite a stack of different websites and references, which I wrote some down on the back of a coaster somewhere and left it at the hotel. I was just wondering for Ben and Helen, what are your favourite go-to references as far as any textbooks or Google sites, just to get some new ideas for coaching?
There's a few that I really like. So there's a new FIH one that keeps putting drills out at the moment on Instagram, which is really good. There's quite a few that I follow. I can't think of them off the top of my head. There's a Spanish one that I follow as well, which is really good. Can't think of anything else. But yeah, there's a heap around that you can kind of look for and follow, and you just pick out which ones you think are more appropriate than others, I suppose. So I noticed even Jamie Dwyer has something happening with Pro something or other, I think just in the last week or two as well. So there's always stuff coming up on social media. But yeah, I'm more than happy to share that stuff with Richard, and you can share it around as well.
Yeah, I think probably the same as Helen. I think there's lots of really good stuff going around at the moment. There's always seems to be something popping up on your social media thread, whether you followed the page or not. Probably the big thing is don't maybe limit yourself to just hockey resources. I know I've watched a lot of like just coaching documentaries on Netflix and sports documentaries in general, and you can always pick up different bits and pieces and think how you can adapt that to what you're trying to do.
There's actually a couple of proper ones I follow, Ben, too, which are really good.
Yeah. I mean, I think little bit nerdy, but I think I actually changed around a training drill I saw on a video game in a career mode that worked really well, and I've adapted that, and it's worked quite well. So, you know, I mean, don't limit yourself.
Yeah, that's time for me to move on after that comment, I reckon, Ben. James Hanger, you've got a question too?
Yeah, Richard. Not that it's affected me. I've been probably pretty lucky, but you hear of a lot of stories of young coaches and that walk away from the game because of bad stories. Any ideas on how to maybe tackle those bad parents or the parent on the sideline that pushes you away from coaching?
Ben, Helen, or was that mine?
Oh mate,
yeah.
I'm happy to throw a story in there if you like. I've had a couple of interesting experiences anyway. I mean, I think if you're around long enough, eventually you're going to have someone that disagrees with what you do, and the way that you do it. It's probably, I guess, making sure you've got a bit of a support network around you to bounce some stuff off and go, you know, what could I have done better? Not reacting on emotion, if that makes sense. So, you know, if you do know someone who's been in that situation, probably, you know, give them a bit of time to I guess settle down, and then you know, really reflect on the situation with them and what happened to I guess create that flashpoint. Like I remember a couple of years ago at indoor, I had a parent come up behind me because his kid had been sitting on the bench and he'd gone back on, and then he got taken straight back off. Not by me, just the kids were on a rotation, and he hadn't put himself back on. I hadn't noticed. You know, and he was pretty stirred up. He was ready to be violent. You know, and it was only through having some people around me that, you know, I could talk through the situation, making sure that one, I hadn't done anything wrong, and if I had, that I could fix it. You know, but also having that support there just to, I guess, settle me back down and make sure that I was okay. Probably stopped me from just running away from it. But yeah.
Cheers.
I've had kids on their field where they've been in tears because I've been asking them to do something, and then the parents on the sideline yelling at them to do something completely different. So I will remove the kid from one side of the field to the other. So there's different ways you can tactically kind of do that subtly, I suppose. It's a bit like a sledgehammer to the face if your kid's been moved from one side to the other, but hopefully they get the message. But I've also had the situation where I've had parents in my face yelling abuse at me because their child didn't get enough game time within a particular tournament and stuff like that. So, and that was at an under 11s carnival, development carnival. So it happens all over the place. It's just something you kind of, like Ben said, you have to keep cool about and give them your reasons and say what it was for, and hope that they can understand it. But they're never going to understand it when they're emotional at the time.
I think the big thing to remember too is, you know, it's very hard for someone to be objective about their own child. You know, and there's no such thing as a bad parent. You know, they're just really emotionally invested in their kid. You know, so you've got to hear their concerns, and I guess just talk them through why you've done what you've done. You know, and back yourself as to why you've done it. But yeah.
I just confer there, James. I think the biggest thing is communication, whether that be in the heat of the moment or before. Making sure that parents and athletes really understand what your expectations are, whether that be for rosters, playing time, turning up, all those sorts of things. If you've given out good communication to the parents, you will limit that, but also then being available and talking to parents, don't hiding yourself away. And like Ben said, trust that you are a good coach and you are a good person and you're doing the job for the right reasons. But also have a mentor, because experience does help in those sorts of situations. So I hope that's helped, James. So Trace, you've got a question as well.
Still on the phone, Darcy.
As usual, Richard, the goalkeepers have been forgotten about. Someone in the chat's asking a question about the goalkeepers and how you go about dealing with the goalies.
The chat question, can someone tell me a little bit more detail dealing with them actually in a team environment or engaging with them from a play point of view?
Hi, Richard. Sarah's actually my goalie. I'll just see if I'm popping up. Hi. Anyway, Sarah's my goalie, and she just wanted to know, like, probably all right, long story short, she's a netballer and she's seen the light and has decided to come play hockey. She just wanted to know if we could, how do you guys find coaching goalies? Is there anything that she can look up herself to get some more resources? She's being mentored by our Marguerite. She's our Dutch lady in our ML3 team. But in terms of other resources, is there other ways, opportunities that she can look at?
Definitely, Hockey New South Wales have a round of goalkeeping clinics coming up in July, which would be a first step for the goalkeeper, but also goalkeeping coaching. And also we're starting to develop some resources on our website, which we'll go to now. But there is also going to be a goalkeeping Hockey Ed accreditation course in October around the Hockey One League and Pride. So yes, we don't forget about goalkeepers. We really are growing our coaching pool, or goalkeeping specific coaching pool, led by Aaron McCarthy from NSWIS, and we have a growing group of coaches there that are willing to send out their knowledge and support them. Are there any other questions? Does that answer your question, Tash?
That was more for Sarah. I don't know, Sarah, if you could throw us another chat, if you can blip that through. Also, while I guess I'm waiting for her to put through, I know this is a relatively, what's the word, obvious question, but it was more or less, with the hockey training plans and stuff like that. Like, I know it should be a given that you're organised, but like, how well in advance do you do it? Do you have it like, cool, I'm going to plan out the whole season, and then probably after each game, it'd be like, okay, we need to reflect on this. Like, how would you guys do that?
Ben or Helen, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I think it depends on the context. So in terms of like I'll use the club team that I coach. So I have a rough idea of I guess phases that we're in terms of training. So if we're in pre-season, I focus more on core skills and those kind of things. We'll have a training block that looks at our structure and those bits and pieces before we really want to start. In season, I'm probably more reactive. So it's what have we done in the last couple of weeks? What are some trends that I'm seeing? What do we need to fix? But in terms of really detailed stuff, like I don't have a huge plan like in that case. For a team, for a tournament, when you've got limited time, I think it's really, really important to be detailed and planned out. So at the moment we're in a training phase for under 18s nationals, and I have literally every half an hour of training planned out for the 6 sessions that we have, and what I'm going to try and do in those. And obviously, those are very, very fluid documents, depending on what else is happening with the team. But I think in those instances, that's probably the level of detail that I'd go to.
Okay, do you keep like that? Obviously, look, everything's all about basics as well, and as you're saying, it is fluid and it may change, I guess, from week to week. But do you have you would just focus on, you'd be like, cool, this week I'm going to pick these core things, and I know you said you planned it down to each half an hour, but then obviously you might go, look, this one is working on, and you'll just sub that out. But so basically, you are kind of a few weeks in advance, for the season. Yeah, I mean, with my club team, I'm probably not even that far in advance. So I would have an idea on, as I said, like I might have a 4-week block that's our pre-season, that I'll just have core skills, and it'll literally week to week. All right, what did we do last week? How did that go? Do we still need to work on that for another session? And go from there. In season, as I said, I'm pretty reactive, so it's what do we need to work on from the weekend and work on those things. Who are we playing on the weekend, and what do we need to work on to take them on? Cool. Thank you so much.
All right. Some good comments in the chat from Blair and Trace about some different sites. So Tracy said there's quite a lot of Facebook groups there for goalkeeping, and Blair's always been a PEP guru. Can you say that word for me, Bev? PEP. I've got my tongue tied. Come on, Blair, help me out.
Everyone just calls him Pep. Everyone knows who he is. And then Daniel Cole, the Talent Code, which is a great read. So it makes you think differently about coaching, and but it applies to teaching and singing, music. It's across everything. So it's really, really good read.
So Trace, you've still got your hand up. Have you got another question?
Yeah, just in relation to at certain points during a season or a tournament, you start to obviously want to win games, and you have to. Some players play more time than others. Do you make a conscious effort to sort of communicate that with players and parents, or is it just something that happens throughout the game with the subs?
I might answer that if you don't mind, Ben and Helen, just to start with. But Tracy, in my role at Hockey New South Wales, I make sure that the situations are communicated out early before the championships. So in our under 15 cohorts, they all should play equal minutes, even the goalkeepers right through under 15 national championships. But under 18s, it's up to the semi-finals and finals. During the rounds, it's generally equal time, but the communication is out to the parents that semi-finals and finals may be slightly different. But also it's really important that the coaches communicate that to the athletes and have good quality discussions with athletes so that they're aware of what's going on. I'm not saying that they're sitting them on the sideline, but giving them the understanding of what's going on and what are the plans, if that sort of gives you a bit of an outline. Ben or Helen, would you like to add any more to that?
Subtly, sometimes. I know when we were away at the 13s, I had one girl who was a key centre defender, and sometimes she'd come off, and instead of having her 4 minutes, she might go back on in 2 minutes if it was an important game. But on the whole, like Richard said, everyone had equal minutes, and I think the players respected that they knew that they were in a rotation and they got the time off. Clubland, kind of depends what's happening, but again, I'm all about the girls all getting just as much time if they can as possible, even in the grand finals. So I think they all deserve to do it because they all were part of the team and got there to start with.
Yeah, I think probably just reiterating what you said there, Rich. I think, you know, as long as it's communicated early. I know, you know, using nationals as an example, I'll send out, you know, an email and talk to the parents and those kind of things face to face as well at a camp before we go away, and just, you know, outline, you know, my intention is equal time, but sometimes that doesn't happen. You know, I think as long as everyone's made aware and kept on the same page, it's all right. I think where you get yourself in trouble is, you know, halfway through a game, you're like, all right, well, I'm just going to keep this team on here for a little bit longer. You know, and that can cause some issues. But I think even in that instance, as soon as it's done, you then go and talk to, I guess, parents and athletes and make sure they understand, well, the reasoning behind it, and, you know, that you still believe in their ability and you still believe in their skill level. Because I think that's probably the danger, particularly with younger athletes, is they think, well, you know, I'm obviously not good enough to be on the field, and they start to sort of downward spiral there. So, you know, I think that's probably the key thing, is just that communication with everyone involved.
It's really great questions. Thanks, everybody. Unless there's any, I'm obviously careful of the time. If anyone had any more questions, but we might just move on. And if there's anything we can chat just at the end, just want to give everyone a heads up more about what we're trying to develop on the Hockey New South Wales website. So on this page here, you can see two sites. So if I go to this site first here, which is under Get Involved, and it's coaching, that is where you'll find all the Hockey Ed and that pathway accreditation pieces, all the links to all the sites and to also the accreditation. But then also something new that we're developing, if you go to performance and then you go on to the Coaching Resource Hub, all the documents that we're using through COD and all our state programs are starting to be shown under there. So it's another resource for all our volunteer coaches to have. So, and there'll be things added to that, the defensive principles that we released at Regional Challenge last weekend, already up on that page. So check out the Coaching Resource Hub on the Hockey New South Wales website. Just another thing I wanted to bring everyone's attention to is something that we've also rolled out at the start of 2021, and it's a thing that we're calling our Pride culture. Obviously, our number one team in Hockey New South Wales is our Pride team, and we've come up with some acronyms which have been developed by our athletes. As Ben said, it's really got to be driven by the athletes, but some acronyms to remind our athletes around the way they need to behave, the way they need to conduct themselves. And I included it tonight because I believe it's just as important or our coaches network to be living by the same values that our athletes are living for. So pride is professional, resilient, integrity, diversity, and excellence. And so if you see someone maybe not exemplifying the right culture, instead of having to dig down deep into what's going on, it might be just you need to say, well, Ben, show some pride tonight, or Ben, pride. It's just a way of us putting culture into one document. So that's also on the coaching website for anybody to be able to use or share. Finally, something that I just thought I'd share with you that I use in my coaching toolbox. Coaching, it's sometimes just about the communication or the subtle and personal communication styles, but you've got to know and understand your athletes. Not every person is different. You've got to be able to understand how you get the best out of them, how you need to develop the knowledge, and how you instruct them, because we are all slightly different. Something that I live by, and I do like to talk, and I apologise for us going over time, but sometimes less is more. Just having one word is really important, or having a saying, so less is more. One I really like to use is also win, lose, and then move on. Sometimes the athletes, after a loss especially, will be waiting for the cue to say, well, losing's okay. And if a coach can go, righto, let's move on. And in the way you conduct yourself, it really allows the athletes to move on. And that's the same with a victory. Don't over-celebrate or don't dwell on victory too often, but win, lose, and move on. And then finally, which sort of ties into the pride culture, we're coaching to allow the athletes to be the best version of themselves. We're not all going to be Jamie Dwyers or Kate Jenners that go on to play for Australia. Be the best version of themselves, regardless of what age group we're coaching. So I thought I'd just leave with that with everybody tonight. Unless we have any more questions, I'd like to thank everybody for calling in tonight, and hopefully it may have inspired you. You will receive a survey from Hockey New South Wales at the conclusion of the workshop with this presentation included in it. We'd really value your feedback. This is the first time Hockey New South Wales has run Hockey New South Wales Education Week. I wanted to try the lived experiences, and I really would also like to thank Helen and Ben for being our panelists tonight, or our experts, and freely sharing their journeys from their coaching background. Thanks also to Dulo for his work being our RPC on deck tonight, and thanks to everybody else, both staff members and people that have called in. Hopefully tonight's been really positive. Also great to have Blair with us. We really we're sad to see Blair move on to Hockey Australia, but it's great that he's been able to stay connected with hockey, and also with Hockey. So Blair, thanks for coming in. Unless there's any other questions, Ben or Helen, did you have a last comment?
I've just whacked some Instagram links to different things while I've been sitting here, just some of the ones that I've got saved. So, I mean, there's a heap more out there, and there's whole different ones that I follow that aren't necessarily hockey, but just for someone to start looking around, you can set hashtags and find more from there. So,
excellent. Ben?
I just think for anyone that wants to have a go, make sure you get out there and have a crack. Push yourself outside your comfort zone, and you never know where you're going to end up. So,
excellent. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy what's left of Tuesday night, and there is a pathway presentation, and it's a lived experience as well on Thursday night. So it'd be great if anyone wanted to. You can still register for that on Thursday night. My two guest speakers will be Kate Jenner, current Hockey-Roo, and Dylan Martin, current Hockey-Roo. So please come in. It's 7 o'clock on Thursday night, but you do need to register so you can get that link. Chaudhry, did you have a last question?
Yeah, sorry, I have a question. Me and my friend Adnan Maqsood, maybe you know him. He played 2 Olympics and he played with the UTS. So we do coaching to young people, somewhere around like Bankstown, 30, 40 young people, they turn up. And when we try to register a ground, they ask us because you have to have a certificate to coaching. So we've been doing coaching like long time, and Adnan played 2 Olympics and he's doing coaching. We're doing coaching free, but that's why I'm here. So we never did this course and accreditation and things like that. So what sort of certificate Adnan can get it and me can, because he played like 2 Olympics and I'm playing with Monterey. I play first grade. And so what sort of things we can get it to show that club and they can give us ground?
We need to get you accredited, so it's probably about doing a course or something along those lines. How you going? It may be better that I connect with you tomorrow and we look at what current courses we have going and that we could connect you with, or come out and meet you and see what level of coaching you're at and go from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's right.
If you're in the Bankstown area as well, so we might be able to find our RPC for that region, which I believe is Alan Charlton. I will, or Nikki King. I'll try and connect them with you as well. So I have your details, so I'll reach out to you via email tomorrow and we'll reconnect and go forward from there.
Yeah, no problem. Because we're doing Sunday early morning to coaching free people. A lot of people, they're coming for hockey, like especially young people, 12-year, 13-year, 9-year-old. So, but we have problem there. We have this problem to get a certification and things like that.
We can certainly hook you up for a coaching course and get you qualified. So that won't be a problem.
He's my friend. He's doing with me, Adnan. maybe you know him.
The faces don't will look familiar, but we're happy to connect with you as much as we can.